Hi, and welcome to Revenge Stories from George.
We'd been married for 12 years when I found out my husband was cheating. And no, it wasn't because I found lipstick on his collar or smelled perfume on his shirt. It was because of a restaurant bill. See, for our anniversary, I'd been planning this elaborate surprise weekend trip, booked a cabin, ordered champagne, even arranged for my sister to take the kids. I was so excited I could barely keep it in. But 2 days before we were supposed to go, I was balancing our joint checking account online and saw a charge for an expensive dinner for two at a place across town. Now, my first thought was that maybe he'd gone there to plan something for me. I'd heard of guys taking their wife's best friend out to get advice on gifts or trips. But then I looked at the date. It was a Thursday night, the exact evening he'd told me he was working late to finish a project. My stomach turned, but I didn't say a word right away. Instead, I called the restaurant and, in my best friendly voice, asked if they could email me the receipt for my expense records. To my surprise, the manager didn't even question it, just sent me a PDF within the hour. There it was, in black and white. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine I know I've never tasted, and a dessert labeled Chocolate Lovers for 2. The kicker? A note on the bill from the server. Happy 6 months. That was it. No more benefit of the doubt. The next night, instead of confronting him, I decided to get creative. I went ahead with the anniversary trip, but for myself. I invited my 2 closest friends, told them everything, and we packed our bags. When he came home from work that Friday, I was already halfway to the mountains, sipping champagne in the back seat of my friend's car. I left him a note on the kitchen counter. "The cabin's beautiful. Shame you won't be here to see it. P.S. Your girlfriend's probably a terrible skier." For the next 3 days, my phone blew up with messages, some apologetic, some angry, some pathetically romantic. I ignored them all. When I got home, I was ready for the real confrontation. I laid the printed receipt on the table, along with a photo of me and my friends at the cabin, holding our champagne glasses high. He tried the usual lines. "It's not what it looks like." It was. "She's just a friend." She wasn't. I was going to end it. He wouldn't have. In the end, I told him I wasn't interested in hearing the rest of the script. Within a month, I'd filed for divorce. And here's the cherry on top. His girlfriend dumped him less than 2 weeks after he moved in with her. Apparently, she wasn't ready for a serious relationship. Meanwhile, I've been to that same cabin 3 more times, each time with better company than before. We'd been married just over 9 years, and I thought things were going fine. Sure, we had our arguments like any couple, but nothing that made me think my husband was spending his business trips with someone who wasn't me. The truth hit me in the dumbest way possible, through Instagram. One Friday afternoon, while scrolling on my lunch break, I saw a photo posted by a woman I barely knew. She was a friend of a friend. In the picture, she was sitting at a fancy rooftop bar with her mystery man, his face half out of frame, but you didn't need a full shot to recognize my husband's leather jacket. I'd bought it for him 2 Christmases ago. And then there was his hand, resting on her thigh like it belonged there. I didn't comment. I didn't message her. I just took a screenshot, saved it, and started making a plan. Coincidentally, my husband's 40th birthday was coming up the next weekend, and I had been organizing a big surprise party for him, about 30 people, including his parents, his siblings, our closest friends, and even a couple of coworkers. I decided the party would still happen, but the surprise would be for everyone else. When the night arrived, the house was decorated, the cake was ready, and people were mingling, waiting for the birthday boy to show up. I'd told him to get home by 7:00 because I needed help with something heavy. When he walked in and everyone shouted, "Surprise!" he looked genuinely shocked for about 5 seconds. Then the smile came. He thought he'd gotten away with everything. I let him open his gifts first, because I'm not heartless. There was laughter, hugs, and a toast from his best friend. Then I stood up, holding a small wrapped box. "This one," I said, "is from me. But before you open it, I want to say a few words." I told everyone in the room how much I'd loved him, how I'd supported his career, how I thought we were building a life together. I kept it calm, even warm, until the last line, and that's why it was such a surprise to find this on Instagram. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and mirrored it to the TV on the wall. Up came the screenshot, him in that leather jacket, his hand on another woman's leg. The silence was so sharp it was almost a sound in itself. His mother gasped. One of his coworkers actually whispered, "Oh, T." He turned red, not the embarrassed kind, but the furious at being caught kind. I set the small wrapped box in front of him. He opened it with shaking hands and found the spare keys to his car and the garage door opener. No note, no explanation. Just the physical symbols of his departure. "Your clothes are already in storage," I told him. "You can pick them up tomorrow. The locks will be changed by noon." He tried to pull me aside, but I stepped back. "We have guests," I said with a smile. "Why don't you mingle? I'm sure some of them will want to say goodbye." Half the guests left within minutes. The other half stayed for me. We turned the night into an anti-birthday celebration, drinking the champagne I'd bought and laughing until midnight. The next day, I found out from one of his coworkers that the woman in the picture had dumped him the moment she realized everyone knew. Apparently, being the other woman wasn't so appealing when the spotlight hit. I kept the leather jacket. It looks better on me anyway. We'd been married less than 2 years when I caught him. People always say the first years of marriage are the happiest. For us, they were fine. Not perfect, but fine. Or at least, I thought so. It started with small things. Him guarding his phone like it was a nuclear launch code. Suddenly volunteering for business trips he used to complain about. And coming home smelling faintly of a floral perfume I didn't own. I brushed it off for months, telling myself I was just being paranoid. Then one night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't go through it. I didn't need to. The preview on the screen read, "Can't wait to see you next weekend, baby." And it wasn't from me. I didn't blow up. I didn't even mention it. Instead, I started quietly preparing. My best friend's husband works in IT, and I asked him, hypothetically of course, how one might track a phone without the person knowing. Turns out, there are discrete GPS apps that can be installed in minutes if you have the phone in your hand. The next time my husband left his phone on the charger while showering, I installed the app. 2 days later, I knew everything. Where he met her, how long they stayed together, and even the hotel they sometimes used. Here's where fate handed me a gift. We had a trip planned to Cancun, a belated honeymoon we'd been putting off because of work. He thought it was going to be a romantic getaway. I decided it would be his last vacation with me. On the second day, we were sitting by the pool when he said he was going to the hotel gym. I smiled, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "Sure, have fun." Then I opened the GPS tracker on my phone. 5 minutes later, he was nowhere near the gym. He was across the resort, in a private cabana area. I walked over, calm as could be, and there she was, bikini, sunglasses, and my husband's hands all over her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply walked up, set my phone on the table between them, and hit play on a recording I'd made, a compilation of his texts to her over the last month, read aloud by my best friend in her most sarcastic voice. Every "I miss you," every "I can't stop thinking about you," every promise to leave my wife soon. Then I turned to her and said, "Congratulations, he's all yours. His return ticket home is in your name. Now enjoy explaining that to customs." See, I'd changed his flight the night before. He was now booked on her departure date, in her seat, with her passport number accidentally swapped into his booking, which meant, unless she was willing to fly home with him, he was going to have to pay for a whole new ticket last minute peak season. I walked away, leaving him standing there in swim trunks, holding his half-finished margarita. I spent the rest of the trip on the beach, reading novels and letting the staff know to send all charges to his room. By the time I got home, I'd already moved my things out and changed the locks. His luggage showed up a week later, dumped by the airline on the front porch. I left it there overnight in the rain. I still go to Cancun once a year, alone, and I always book the same resort, same suite. The staff there remember me now. They call it Mrs. Peterson's Villa, and every time I check in, they ask with a grin, "Coming alone again?" Yes, happily alone. My husband had been chasing a promotion for years. It was all he talked about at home late nights. Extra projects. Kissing up to the right people at work. I'd been the supportive wife through it all, making sure dinner was ready when he got home, listening to endless rants about office politics, pretending to care about quarterly reports I barely understood. When he finally got the call that he'd been promoted to regional director, he was over the moon. His company even planned a celebration dinner at a fancy hotel ballroom. Colleagues, clients, and senior management would all be there. He asked me to come, of course, and to look my best. 2 weeks before the big night, I found out he'd been having an affair with his assistant. Not by snooping, not by some big slip-up she told me herself. Apparently she thought I should know, She wasn't confessing out of guilt, though. She wanted me to get out of the way so she could have him full-time now that he had the bigger paycheck. I listened, smiled, and thanked her for letting me know. Inside, I was shaking, but not from heartbreak, from anticipation. I didn't tell him I knew. I played the loving, proud wife all the way up to the night of the celebration. I wore the dress he'd always said was his favorite, the one he liked to show off when introducing me to people. The evening started as expected. Champagne, polite small talk, boring speeches from upper management. Then it was his turn to speak. He walked up to the podium, thanked everyone for their support, and started talking about his wonderful wife who'd stood by him. He motioned for me to join him on stage. I walked up, smiled at the audience, and took the microphone from him. "Thank you," I said sweetly. "I just want to say how proud I am of my husband for all his hard work, and for somehow managing to juggle a demanding job, a marriage, and a full-blown affair with his assistant for the past 8 months." You could hear a pin drop. Then, a collective gasp rippled through the room. I pulled a small stack of photos from my clutch pictures of the two of them having lunch, holding hands in the park, and entering a hotel together. I'd had them printed just for this occasion. My ex-husband had always been obsessed with climbing the corporate ladder. He wore ambition like cologne, thick enough for everyone to smell. He worked late nights, took weekend calls, and claimed it was all for us. I believed him, until the day I found a string of emails between him and his colleague Claire. They weren't just talking about quarterly sales targets unless "I can still taste you from last night" was some new kind of marketing jargon. I didn't blow up. I didn't confront him in the moment. Instead, I filed it away like a secret weapon, waiting for the perfect time to strike. That time came 2 months later when he told me he was being promoted to regional director. He was so proud. He planned a big party at a fancy rooftop bar and invited not just friends and family, but his entire team, including Claire. The night of the party, I played my role, smiling, handshakes, the supportive wife everyone expected. I even toasted him early in the evening, just a quick congratulations before the drinks started flowing. But my real toast, the real one, was scheduled for later. When the DJ quieted the music and everyone gathered for the official speech, my husband stood up, basking in the attention. I couldn't have done this without my incredible team, and of course, my amazing wife, he said, gesturing toward me. The crowd clapped. I took the microphone. "Thank you," I said, smiling warmly. "And you're right, you couldn't have done this without your team. Or without Claire." A ripple went through the crowd. Claire froze, her glass halfway to her lips. "You see," I continued, "Claire's been giving my husband a lot of support after hours. Late nights at the office, private strategy sessions at her apartment, truly above and beyond." The room went dead quiet except for the sound of the city traffic below. My husband's face turned the shade of overripe tomatoes. "And while I'd love to thank her personally," I said, locking eyes with Claire, "I think I'll just let the rest of you decide what kind of teamwork this was." I handed the mic back, picked up my purse, and walked out. Behind me, voices erupted: shock, whispers, someone's nervous laugh. By the time I reached the street, my phone was buzzing with texts from mutual friends. Apparently, Claire left in tears. My husband tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, and the VP pulled him aside for a private word. His promotion wasn't rescinded, but he was quietly transferred to a smaller branch 3 states away. Claire didn't go with him. And me? I filed for divorce the following week, with all the emails ready to hand over. Let's just say the settlement was generous. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's a toast, one that goes down smooth for you and burns for them the whole way down. I thought about keeping this private, I continued. But since you've all gathered here to celebrate his accomplishments, I figured you might as well know all of them. I handed the photos to the CEO, who looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. My husband stood frozen, face pale, trying to stammer out some explanation. I handed him the microphone back. "Your turn," I said, and walked off stage. I didn't leave immediately. I went to the bar, ordered myself a drink, and watched the chaos unfold. His assistant slipped out a side door. His boss avoided eye contact. By the time I finished my cocktail, he was gone too. The fallout was swift. He kept his promotion barely, but the assistant was transferred to another branch, and his shiny new reputation had a permanent stain. As for me, I filed for divorce the next morning. A few weeks later, I got a call from one of his co-workers who'd been at the dinner. "I just want you to know," she said, "that was the single most badass thing I've ever seen." I didn't disagree. We'd been married for 15 years. That's a long time to share a house, a life, and, apparently, my husband's attention with another woman. I didn't know about the other woman for most of that time, not because I was naive, but because he was careful. Or so he thought. Our kids were nearly grown, and we'd hit that point where couples start talking about reconnecting. He suggested a vow renewal in Hawaii. Said it would be romantic. Said it would remind us both of why we fell in love. I said yes, partly because I wanted the trip, and partly because I thought maybe, just maybe, we could spark something again. 2 weeks before we left, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. No greeting, just, "You should know your husband has been seeing me for 8 years. 8 years. I read it 3 times before I could breathe again. She sent proof text, screenshots, hotel receipts, selfies of them together. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I called the resort in Hawaii and asked to make a special request for our vow renewal. They were happy to help. When the day came, it was picture perfect. White sand, blue ocean, floral arch. Our family and a few close friends stood around smiling. The officiant welcomed everyone and invited us to speak our vows. He went first, saying all the usual scripted nonsense, how I was his rock, his partner, the love of his life. People actually, "Aw, Ed." Then it was my turn. I had something prepared, I began. But I've decided to be a little more honest today. I reached into my dress pocket. Yes, it had pockets. And pulled out my phone. I just want to thank my husband for giving me 15 years of memories and for teaching me the valuable lesson that trust, once broken, can never really be repaired. I turned the phone around so our guest could see the photo on the screen. Him and his mistress kissing in a hotel room. A few gasps. One sharp, "Oh my God," from his sister. I found out about her 2 weeks ago, I continued. And I thought, what better time to let you all know than right here, where he was planning to promise me forever. Again. I handed the phone to my best friend, who started showing the rest of the group. The officiant looked like she wanted to run into the ocean. My husband's face went from pink to white to a blotchy red. I won't be renewing any vows today, I said, but I will be renewing my passport stamps while I enjoy the rest of this Hawaiian vacation without him. I turned, walked toward the bar, and ordered myself a pineapple cocktail. He left within the hour, muttering something about a flight change. I spent the rest of the trip snorkeling, hiking, and posting cheerful solo photos on social media. By the time I got home, my lawyer had the divorce papers ready. And, just for the poetic symmetry, I sent him a postcard from Hawaii with 3 words on it. Best trip ever. My husband had a poker night every other Friday. It started as a friendly thing with his coworkers, but over the years it had turned into a semi-serious boys' club. Cigars, whiskey, the same crowd every time. I didn't mind at first. It gave me a quiet evening to myself. But then the signs started stacking up like chips on the table. Late arrivals home. Showers at odd hours. A mysteriously clean passenger seat in his car when the rest of the vehicle looked like a trash can. The real tell came when I found a lacy bra in his gym bag. Definitely not my size, and definitely not something I owned. When I asked, he laughed and said one of the guys must have put it there as a joke. I didn't laugh back. Rather than confront him right then, I waited. I knew he was too comfortable, too sure I wouldn't suspect anything. I decided his beloved poker night would be the perfect setting for his luck to finally run out. 2 Fridays later, I put my plan in motion. I made snacks for the guys like usual, but I also invited an unexpected guest. Her name was Madison. She was the woman he'd been sleeping with. I didn't tell her I was his wife when I reached out. I pretended to be a mutual friend, inviting her to surprise him at poker night, because he talked about her all the time. Madison showed up right on time, wearing a tight red dress that could have stopped traffic. The guys were already mid-game when she walked in. My husband froze, his hand halfway to the chip pile. The room went quiet except for the clink of ice in someone's glass. She smiled at him like they were the only 2 people in the world. "Hey, babe, thought I'd surprise you." I set my drink down and stood up. "Oh, you did. You really did." Madison turned to me, confused. "Wait, who are you?" "I'm his wife," I said, watching the color drain from both their faces. "And you must be the reason poker night has been running until 2 a.m. lately." One of the guys coughed into his beer. Another leaned back like he wanted to disappear into the couch. Madison stammered something about not knowing he was married. I believed her mostly, but I wasn't here to pick apart her conscience. I was here for the finish. I walked over to the table, scooped up the stack of chips my husband had in front of him, and dumped them into the middle. "All in," I said. "House rules. When you lose big, you walk away." Then I turned to Madison. "He's all yours now, but you should know he's terrible at bluffing." I left them there, the guys awkwardly avoiding eye contact, my husband looking like he'd just been dealt a hand of nothing but twos. That night, I changed the locks. He spent the weekend texting me apologies that got shorter and shorter until they stopped altogether. Madison never came around again, at least not to my knowledge. In the end, he lost more than his poker game. He lost the whole table.